Welcome, everyone. So I know a lot of familiar faces on this call. So most of you know me. If you don't, I'm Allison Campbell. I'm the founder of unBurnt. So we're a company focused on burnout prevention and recovery. And I'm just super passionate about bringing resources, tools, and hopefully some real solutions to the world. I think, we're all in this moment in time where we've been, more maxed out than ever before. And so this company is brand new. It's really been a learning journey for me. And as part of this, I'm so excited to be bringing experts and lots of people in the wellness and workplace solution spaces to just talk about different solutions, talk about ways in which we can all kind of focus on being healthier in our everyday lives. So today, I'm so excited that we have Jessica Berg. She's the founder of a company called Moonrock Wellness. Jessica and I met through LinkedIn, through mutual connections. So lots of new virtual internet friends these days. And Jessica is one of my favorites. She and I connected over the summer, and she's just building out some really cool products, very innovative solutions. I'm not going to do any more of an intro than that, Jessica, because I want to turn it over to you. As I mentioned, we have so much great content, but thrilled Jessica's here today to help take us through building intentions for 2025 and just giving us tools to stay grounded as we're navigating stress in our everyday lives. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessica without any further ado and go on mute here because I have my window open and I just heard a truck go by. So Jessica, I'm turning it over to you and I'm going to go on mute. Super, super excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. I'm equally passionate about this topic. So thank you for those of you who have joined, putting time and commitment into your, balance and living a life that is one that you are going to thrive in. And all the things that I want to talk about today is about stepping into the life you're yearning for, and how do you make those shifts so that you can create the change that you're looking to have and bringing that future state vision of what you're looking to step into life. So I want to just do a precursor that I am going to obviously be presenting material, but I want this to be interactive. So I have the chat screen pulled up on my other monitor. So if you have questions or if you kind of there's a certain thing that you want to dive a little bit deeper into, please let me know. And we are going to be doing some workshopping. So we'll do a workshop on helping you get alignment on what your core values are. We'll do a little bit of a workshopping on what are some of the immediate actions that you want to take to bring that vision to life. And then I'm also going to spend the last part of the workshop. Thank you, Allison. I'm going to spend the last part of the workshop giving you guys a little bit some tools, because one of the things that is really kind of at the center of everything that I do when it comes to creating more work-life balance, it's all about the internal healing and practices that you can incorporate, because those are really the things that make for lifelong changes and transformation. And that really helps sustain more of the balanced life. So I'll make sure that you guys have some tools. And if you guys have other ones that you want to share too that have worked for you, that'd be great. All right. So first things first, let me introduce myself. I know Allison, you did a great intro, but I have an intro slide, so I'm just going to keep going with it. So like Allison said, my name is Jessica Berg. I am the founder of Moonrock Wellness. Before I moved into founderhood, I spent the last 17 plus years in corporate, specifically in digital agency and big tech. Before I left, when I left my corporate career in March of this year, I spent the last 8 years at Adobe. Loved it. It was awesome. But I had a pull deep inside to impact the one-to-many and to bring more light to corporate. So I leaned fully into that. And now I am transformational coach for professionals, certified holistic healer in yoga, breathwork, meditation, Reiki, sound. I'm also, my most natural role is that of a mom. So I have an 8-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter who are and always will be my greatest teachers. And I have a 11-year-old Fruggle. So if anyone is a dog lover, he is half French Bulldog, half Puggle. Those actually exist. It's a breed called Fruggle. Who knew? But he's awesome. So that is me in a nutshell. And over the next, 50 minutes of our time together, there are 3 main things that if you walk away with anything, these are the 3 things I want to make sure that we hit home on for you. So 1, I want to make sure that you have clarity on what your core values are and the dream life that you are looking to truly step into. Two, I want to start making sure that there is awareness of the root causes of some of the I don't want to call them bad habits, but the habits that create the unbalance and the habits that create the burnout, that I want you to have an idea of some of the root causes that might be driving that. And then also, last but not least, I want to make sure that you have the tools and practices to support your journey. And it's all about leading with the heart versus the head. That is a big shift, especially in the way that our society and culture is moving, or has been moving. But that is really like, because that is a big shift to move into, there's tools and practices to support that journey. All right. I'm going to start this whole thing really with one of my favorite quotes, because this is really what it's all about. And this is a quote from Bronnie Ware's book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And she was a palliative care nurse for years. And over the course of her time as a nurse, she started to record what her patients would be saying as they were nearing death. And the number one regret that she recorded across all of her patients was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And this is pretty much my mission in life. This is my mission to help people live a life so that when they are taking their last breath, they're not looking back with regret, that they're looking back and relishing in the decisions they made, the moments that they experienced, etc. And so much of our lives, we are taught to go down a certain path because it's safe. We are taught to really kind of make decisions based off of fear. What is the safest, the least risky, etc. That we start to not live our lives aligned to that which really matters most to us. And that's kind of what we're going to be shifting and bringing some light to the conversations today. All right, so a little fun game. Not game, but just kind of polling. So if you can relate to any of the items on the right-hand side of the screen here, I want to kind of level set that, one, you're not alone, and two, you are absolutely in the right place. So if you, as I'm going through these, if you want to put in the chat, like which ones you resonate with or which ones you experience, it can be one or all or many. But if the moment you open your eyes, you feel dread, stress, or anxiety, I want you to know you're in the right place and you're not alone. For years in corporate, before I started putting boundaries in place, I remember I would wake up, the first few seconds that my eyes opened, I would feel light and airy and just at peace. And then within seconds, the reality of the work day that I was about to endure started like flushing through my system, and it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest within minutes. So I feel you, I see you if this is one that you resonate with. If you spend most of your day tending to other people's needs, leaving minimal fuel for yourself, you are absolutely not alone. If you want a change in your life, but maybe the fear of the unknown or the fear of not being accepted is holding you back, you are absolutely in the right place and you're not alone. If you struggle to shut off work and that is keeping you from being present for the moments that matter most, and I'm not just talking about shutting your laptop physically, it's mentally detaching from the ruminating thoughts of work. If this is a struggle that you have, you're not alone and you're in the right place. And if you feel like you're checking off all the boxes in life, but you're still not feeling fulfilled, maybe you went to high school, you got a degree, you went to college, you got a degree, after college, you got a job, check, 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 check. Maybe you met someone, you have a family, check, check. But at the end of the day, you're still feeling a bit of unfulfillment, then you're not alone and you're in the right place. And I want to say I have felt all of these at the same time and at different moments in my life. 2 and 3, yes, Jackie. AJ, 4, love it. 4 is a big one. That's a hard one. So there are healing, there's some practices that we can incorporate to help overcome those. But if any of these are ones that you resonate, you're in the right place. And it's not like you haven't tried. I mean, we're all leaders in some capacity, whether it's at home or at work, right? And we've tried different things, we've tried different systems, but we keep ending up right back in the same place. And maybe you've even tried changing your jobs, or maybe you've tried changing companies to get that excitement about what you're doing, but then the newness wears off and you're back to where you were. Maybe you've promised yourself you're going to prioritize wellness. You know, New Year's is coming up. This is going to be on the top of everyone's list, I'm sure. But then over time, the gym or the exercise or the meditation becomes a tomorrow thing, and next week after this, and this. So that is something that is a constant. And what I have found is that there is a reason that nothing seems to work, or there is a reason that you we keep circling back to where we started. And what I have found is that it comes down to three key aspects. Number one is not being clear with yourself on what your true core values are, what matters most to your soul. Number two is not pulling the weed out at the root, which means not addressing the root cause of what's causing the barrier or the challenge in the first place. So this is about just like weeds in a garden. If you do not pull the weed out, if you do not dig into the dirt, into the darkness, and pull that weed out by the root, that bad habit is going to keep coming back over and over again. And we're going to talk about that. And then number three is not holding yourself accountable to stay on the path less familiar. So whenever there is a shift or there is a change in that you are looking to make in your life, you are going to run up against external resistance. Yes, I will say that the external resistance always is less than what we tend to think it is going to be in our minds. The biggest resistance is the internal resistance. And that is because of our loving friend, the ego, that doesn't like change. The ego does not like the unknown. The ego likes the predictable. It does not like surprises. So the ego is going to throw all these fears and self-doubt and limiting beliefs in your way so that it stays on the path that is familiar. So that's something that we're going to work through as well. And I have been in a burnout situation 100%, many times, more times than I care to admit. The worst burnout that I ever experienced was in 2021, January, February timeframe. I had way overcommitted myself. I had too many presentations, I had too many deliverables, and I was working 12 plus hours a day for weeks on end. I was working weekends. My resentment for my job was growing by the hour. I was seeing all the missed moments that I wasn't experiencing with my children, which was making me super freaking bitter and reactive, which also made me not the best version of myself as a mother. And there was after dinner one night, my son, who was 4 or 5 at the time, came up to me and he said, "Mommy, I drew you a picture." And that's the picture on the right-hand side. And he said, "You're the blue person, I'm the green person." Naturally, those are our favorite colors. So for him, that's how he identified us. And he said, "And I know you're really sad right now, so I'm holding an umbrella over your head to protect you from the storm." And I looked at that little boy, I thanked him, and then I ran up to my bedroom and I had my own little eat, pray, love moment where I curled up into the fetal position on my bedroom floor and just bawled my eyes out because I couldn't believe that I had gotten to that point. In my 20s, early 30s, I worked to live. And at some point it flipped where all of a sudden I was living to work. And it was because I got caught up in the hustle culture. I got caught up in the ego of getting that promotion, getting more money, all that stuff, that all of a sudden I realized I was missing out on living the moments of my life that mattered most to me. And so from then on out, I vowed to make a change. Like I was like, this is it. There's got to be something that I can do that's going to make me not come back to this place again. So I'm going to walk through the steps that I took. And this is just a soft guidance, just so you can kind of see how I navigate it. This is also kind of what I take my clients through as well. But it's just like a guiding post, if you will. But the first thing that I did was I identified my core values. And these were, once I aligned on what my non-negotiables were in life, it allowed me to really be able to stand strong in the decisions I was making and the boundaries that I was putting in place. So the core values that I landed on for me were happiness, empathy, family, spiritual growth, resilience, and I threw a 6th contender in there, hope, because hope's been a constant in my life. Then once I knew what was most important to me at the soul level, I started to identify the vision of the life I wanted my days to look like. I knew that the way I was operating today wasn't working. So what did I want my days to look like? And for me, that was working less while still excelling my career because I'm type A hyperachiever. So it still had a little bit of the ego that I had to tend to, but I didn't want to do it where I was burning myself out, burning the candle at both ends. I wanted to start tapping into that pull I had deep inside to impact the one to many. And I wanted to really start experiencing life. I wanted to be present. And I knew in order to bring that vision to life, I needed to start making changes in the way I was operating my days. I needed to start shifting things. So I started to identify, okay, what are the shifts I need to make in my days? What's the foundation I need to start building so that I can start stepping into that life I'm yearning for? And for me, I got really specific about where I was putting my time and energy. I started pulling back on meetings. I put boundaries in place, and I really started to tap into practices that helped me go through the shifts and the changes without that internal resistance. Now, this is really the foundation of me getting into a place where I was able to have more balance. And then it moved into the transformation. I got into the internal. I started to address those root causes. I had to address the mindset shifts that I needed to make on shifting from the number of hours being the value of what I was giving to my work and shifting that to the actual output. I needed to be in a better physical, mental, and emotional state in order for my output to be that much better for my job. And I came from digital agency. So if anyone's worked at digital agency, for me at the time in my 30s and 20s, 40 hours a week was something I was like, are you even working? You're only working 40 hours a week. So I really needed there's a lot of layers that I needed to pull back and shift. I had to face money scarcity fears and my attachment to my career as my identity. And then I started integrating it. I made it a lifestyle and not a life diet. And that was the true transformation that I went through. So once I did that, I really started to begin to thrive in all areas, not only my career and my endeavors, but also in life. I actually started to find fulfillment in my job because I was finding fulfillment outside of my job. So it really was this beautiful give and take. And this is what I want to kind of start walking through today is some of those steps and start working with this group on what that could look like. And we're going to start with the core values. So how many people have a good idea of what their core values are? All right, awesome. Love it. Okay, if you don't, that's the majority of people. So that's perfect. AJ, you're good. So we're going to talk about your core values and we'll do a little workshopping so you can identify what those are. And we're going to start with what your core values are not. And I grew up, I was born in 82. And so naturally Seinfeld was a staple in my household because I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And so this is a scene from Seinfeld where George Costanza, in the whole episode, he wants to address his mood. And Jerry Seinfeld says, well, what mood is this? And George says, this is morning mist. And I like this as an example of what your core values are not, because your core values are not constantly changing. Your core values, in fact, they rarely change over the course of your lifetime. They're not temporary, and they're not what you believe they should be, and they are not aspirational. So a good example of this is if you have been a smoker for 20 years of your life and you are committed to quitting smoking, and you think that your core value is health because of that, I would venture to say that health is not a core value. Not because that's not something that you're pursuing and that you're aspiring. I think that's beautiful. But if you look at the course of the actions that you've taken over your life, health has not really been a core value, an essential and non-negotiable in how you've lived out your days. So that's really like a big part of it, is having that honest conversation with yourself. And that's how you kind of weed out to what your list is. So what your core values are your North Star. They are your internal compass. They are consistent, usually all the way back to childhood. So you can really kind of look over the course of your life. When you look back at your life and you think of the moments where you were in the most flow, where you were your happiest, where you had the most ease, that's usually when you are living your life aligned to your core values. When you've had friction and hardship, that's when, yes, life happens, external influences, but in decisions that you're making in your day to day, if you're having those friction points and hardship, it's usually when you're living out of alignment from your core values. They truly are your non-negotiables and they are unique to you. And the reason why they are essential, the reason why every single client I work with, this is the first thing we talk about. And the reason for that is because they are the North Star. They allow you to be able to start to put those foundational elements in place and the shifts without feeling bad, and I have the word unapologetically in here, because you can unapologetically maintain your boundaries. You don't get in your head so much because you are so certain about what matters most to you at the core. It's easier for you to make decisions. When I was trying to make a decision on, okay, am I really going to leave my corporate job and pursue this endeavor, pursue this pull deep inside? I had two paths that I had before me, and I ran those paths through my core values, and which one was aligned to my core values and which one was absolutely draining my core values. That helped me make a really clear, unapologetic decision. And then by doing that, you're allowing yourself to live in alignment with contentment, ease, and abundance. So now we're going to have some fun. So we're going to get clear on what your 3 to 5, we'll throw in a 6 because I have 6. core values are AKA your non-negotiables. So what I want you to do, and if you have your core values identified, then just, maybe just even just go through like this for fun. But if you do not know what your core values are, start making a list of all the things you value and enjoy in life. So it can be virtues that you value, it can be experiences, personalities. So if honesty is something that you really value in yourself and others, maybe that's one of your core values. So start like listing those things out. Maybe travel and seeing other cultures. That's a value that and an experience that you enjoy. Maybe laughter is something that you enjoy. So maybe humor is a core value of yours. And if you need some additional help, there's a book that I'm going to recommend at the end of this, but the author asks the readers to identify like what are your top 3 favorite movies or songs of all time. And it could be your number 1 or top 3. And of that, ask yourself, well, why is it my favorite? And once you start to kind of like dig in a little bit, you'll start to see some themes come out. So an example of this is I was working with a client on identifying her core values. And for her favorite movie of all time for like decades has been Liar, Liar. And come to find out, honesty is one of her core values. So that's kind of where this can start to help sharpen. And then once you have that list, sit with it. And it can, like, over the course of a few weeks, like really think about it, like feel it inside of yourself and have those honest conversations. Because there may be ones that you're like, actually, if I really am honest with myself, this isn't a true core value. And this other one is something that I am seeing resonates more with me. So I'll give you guys just like 5 minutes to just start putting that list together. And if you have any questions, put that in the chat. And you're going to want to narrow that list down to like 3 to 5 or 6. And Allison, I don't have music, but if you guys need music.
We'll let people do some deep thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's take like 2 to 3 minutes.
Perfect.
There is zero obligation to share, but just to get a pulse check, if you want to either share, your top 3 or just put in the chat done, just so we can gauge when folks are done writing down their values. I'm going to keep mine private, but I'm going to say done.
Done.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Perfect. So are we good to go then?
I think.
Perfect. Love it. Okay.
Lacey, do you need 1 more minute?
You're good?
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
And as you guys have that list, just think about, like I said, over the next like couple of weeks and stuff, just really feel into it. And because your core values are going to be those should be your compass and your guiding, your North Star, if you will. All right. So now we have our values. Now we're going to align on the vision of the life you're yearning to live. And I won't go through like any like guided meditation or anything, but what I want to do is I want to put a hypothetical out there to just get you initially thinking, like your gut reaction. So say you were told, you were diagnosed, without a doubt, you only had 10 years left to live. That is, there's no question about it. In 10 years, that is when your life is going to end. What would you do with your remaining years? And I want you to write those down right now. Like, what are the immediate shifts that you would want to, like, you've been diagnosed with 10 years left. What are the top 3 things that you want to change, that you would shift in your life? And I'll give you a minute to write those down. Because the reality, and this isn't to be a Debbie Downer, this is more to be motivational, but the reality is that this may be the situation for some of us. You know, we go throughout our lives that tomorrow is promised, that the next 5 years are a guarantee, and the reality is that none of that is a guarantee. And so it's really about getting clear on what is the way in which you want to be experiencing your days, because the most valuable asset that you have in your life is your time. And how are you going to really magnify the time that you do have in this life, knowing that tomorrow is not promised? And I like 10 years because it's not too long where you're like, I've got time. And it's not too short where you're like, I need to quit everything. We're moving to Paris, you know? I'll give you guys another minute. But what's your gut reaction on the things that you would shift? And while you guys are kind of finishing up that, if you still have some things that you're shifting, I mean, we're going to pull from that list in a few minutes. So just keep that list handy. But I want to start kind of not shift gears, but in a parallel vein, I do want to start talking about bringing that awareness to the root cause of the issue. And it's all about pulling out the weeds from the root. And I love this analogy of the weeds in the garden, because it really does tie directly to bad habits that keep coming back. My husband's from Chicago. We moved there for 6 years after we got married. And when we bought a house in the suburbs, like everyone does in Chicago. You know, you get married, you move out of the city, you have kids, and you buy a house in the suburbs. And the house that we bought, the woman was a retired school nurse, and her passion in life was gardening. Like, that is what she lived for. She spent all her hours in the garden. I had never even owned a shovel. So when we bought the house in the winter, so I didn't know what the garden looked like. And when the perennials started coming through in the spring, at first it was exciting. I was like, oh, what's this? This is exciting. And then by summertime, the weeds were in full throttle and I was so overwhelmed. So I was going out there and I was pulling the weeds out, and little did I know that I had to actually get into the dirt to pull the root out so that they would never be there anymore. There was a time where I was in the weeds, like pulling them out, and I was so overwhelmed, I was bawling my eyes out. So I still don't have a green thumb, but that's really what this is all about. It is about getting into the dark places that maybe we don't want to shed light on, or maybe we don't want to dig into. And it's only until we do that, do we release that weed, and do we no longer let that be something that kind of guides and dictates our life. And I'm going to give a little bit of a hint. A lot of this has to do with inner child. And you may be familiar with that term or not. But a lot of times our inner child, it's not only dictating like how we show up in our personal life, it is 100% driving how we show up in our professional life. It is showing up how we lead a team. It is showing up how we execute in our work day in and day out. So this is not going to be like a therapy session on addressing the inner child. It's more so just to generate awareness that a lot of the bad work habits that we've developed over time, it is rooted to internal healing that can be resolved and worked through, so that that no longer becomes something that guides your life. So a couple of examples, all right? So an unhealthy habit, maybe you are a people pleaser, or you have difficulty setting boundaries. This is a very common one. A potential root cause to consider is maybe, in your younger years or throughout growing up, you found self-worth through external approval. So you seeked external approval for finding your own love and validation of your worth. Maybe you have a fear of rejection or abandonment. Maybe you avoid conflict. So maybe you grew up in a household where there was a lot of conflict going on, and your safe space was to find a place where there wasn't conflict. So then that's where people-pleasing habits came in. So these are just things to kind of just think about, to build awareness of, so that they are things that you can start to kind of get into the dirt, get into the darkness of yourself, to pull them out and not let them dictate your life anymore. Maybe another unhealthy habit is perfectionism. I am a type A, so this is a big one for me. A potential root cause to consider is equating failure with personal inadequacy, conditional love. Maybe growing up, when you received love and recognition, it was really only when you were getting straight A's or you got an award. And if you didn't get straight A's, that's when you got the opposite. So it's that conditional love or a need for control. Maybe an unhealthy habit that you have or experience is overworking. This is actually the most common one that I have seen with my client base. And it's one that is just a very natural default that people go to. And maybe the potential root cause is they're using work and busyness because they don't want to really deal or tend to some of these suppressed or unresolved emotions that they have like buried deep inside. I have a client that I'm working with, and this is very much something that we're tending to. Is she had, when we first worked together, she had 5 jobs that she was trying to maintain. And part of it was, to make ends meet, but at the same time, it was also because she didn't like to be in the quiet. So now she's down to 1 job, and we're working on making sure that the time that she has available now, she's using it and not creating more busyness. The last one is the inability to delegate. So a potential root cause to consider for this is the fear of not being needed. Think about in the professional landscape, if you don't want to delegate a certain task to a team member, maybe it's coming from like, well, will I still be seen as someone that's needed within the organization? Or maybe you have an inability to trust that others can execute the tasks correctly. I've seen this in leadership. And when this is a root cause, if there's a leader that has this type of unhealthy habit, the culture that it is manifested is very much a culture of insecurity, anxiety, and stress. So this is just like things to think about, because it shows up in how you lead a team, and it shows up in how you execute in your day-to-day. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, awesome. Now, keeping that in mind, we're going to start talking about building the structure in our days. So we talked about our values. We talked about the vision of the life that we want to step into. And now we're going to start talking about the structure. And the reality is that if you want to see change in your life, things need to change. And I love this analogy of a riverbank going through the mountain, or a stream going through the mountain, because think of the water as the vision of the life that you want to go and move into. Think of the water as your values. Think of the water as your life force, your passion. In order for that water to take shape, in order for that water to have a direction and a life, it has to have the riverbank, the structure. So you have to have a structure and boundaries in your days in order for that vision and your dream life to become a reality. Because if that riverbank was not there, if the structure was not there, what would happen? The water would spread everywhere, it would dissipate, and it wouldn't exist. So that same thing happens with your vision and living your life aligned to your values. So that's what we're going to do right now, is we're going to talk about the structure. And it's all about creating space in your days, and not just that, but how you utilize your space. So step 1, what I'd love for you to do is think back to the vision exercise that we just did, and think about the immediate shifts that you want to start making in your life. Like, those are the actions, right? And then what are the shifts that you're going to make in your life to create more space so that you can take those actions and bring them into life? So I want you to start right now, like we'll do some brainstorming, but as I'm talking, think about like, what are the immediate actions that you need to take in your life, and where can you create space in your days to do so? So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So If you are looking to create space in your mornings, there's a couple of things that you could do. One, obviously wake up earlier, maybe even start even 15 minutes earlier. I have found that I am a much better version of myself if I have a buffer between when I have to go into Operation Mom mode or work mode, and when I wake up. Because if I'm moving into that mode right when my feet hit the ground, I am not a happy camper for the rest of the day. So maybe even like a 15-minute buffer to start, and then you can expand from there. That's a great way to create space. Maybe you creating space in your days is not looking at your phone first thing in the morning. Does anyone on this call look at their phone first thing in the morning? I was guilty of this for a long time until I got an alarm clock. Yes. I'm always preaching about balance and boundaries, but I still struggled. Like when my phone was an alarm clock, I would still find myself just sneakily looking at, well, what's going on in my email, what's going on in my social. And I got an alarm clock so that my phone wasn't even near me. And there's even like scientific reasons why this is good for you to do, because your brain has a natural progression on the brain waves it hits as it wakes up. When you look at your phone, it literally skips brainwave periods. So what that does when it goes into like that hyper beta brainwave is it activates an even like stronger cortisol release. So there's a whole, like I could spend 20 minutes on that, but I won't. And then maybe even pushing your start time back. You know, we say 9 to 5, somehow we've creeped into 8 to 5. So maybe even finding like, can I put a boundary in place where I am not going to start my days until 8:30 or 9? And delegate. If you have the privilege to delegate to a partner, to delegate to team members, like maybe there's things that you could do there too. Another shift, and this is a big one, as far as like, how can you create space in your work days? And I'd love to like hear from you guys too on some things that have worked. But here's just a couple of ideas as you're kind of thinking of what you can do to create space in your days. Meeting attendance reduction, this is a huge one. I got to a point where, I mean, if you're working, like if you're in back-to-back meetings all day, then that is the number one place that you should look to scale back, because you are not setting yourself up for success, because what you're doing is you're not giving yourself any breathing room. You're guaranteeing that you're going to be ending the day in like behind your emails, behind catching up and sending out the notes, whatever it might be. So I found, so a couple of things that I did to put in place is I committed to myself that I would not do more than 4 hours of meetings a day. And some days, yes, it expands beyond that. But on an average, I was not doing more. So then half my day, I was giving myself space. In order to do that, I blocked off my calendar. I embraced the power of no. I delegated. If there were team members that were going to be on that meeting, then I said, I'll get the notes. And then taking meetings on the move. Another thing, as far as like meeting attendance too. So if you find that you are able to multitask in a meeting, then that is a surefire sign that it is not a meeting that you need to be in. I was lucky enough to be in the Women's Executive Shadow Program at Adobe, and I got to shadow Adobe's global CTO for 3 months one-on-one. And it was an amazing experience. And there's a number of things that I picked up, but one of the things that really stuck out to me is I observed how she was in meetings. And every meeting she attended, she gave her full attention. She was not multitasking. She was looking directly in the camera or taking notes by hand. And I started to notice other executives, how they acted in meetings. And I saw the same habit. They were fully present. And what I realized is they have this bouncer called the executive assistant, and the executive assistant is only going to put meetings on their calendar that are a good use of their time. So my suggestion is to always treat your time as if you are a CEO, or maybe you are a CEO. Keep doing that. But treat your calendar as if you're a CEO. Do not attend meetings unless it's going to need 100% of your time. And don't eat at your desk. That's just be kind to your body. Don't eat at your desk. Anyone have anything else that they've done that works as far as creating space in your work days? Another one I have is when I was in corporate for years, I refused to have recurring meetings on Mondays and Fridays. Yeah.
Should I chime in?
Yeah, please.
No, for me, it's very hard because I do a lot of my work from home with the kids. So for me, it's actual physical space. Like
Mm.
I really needed to carve out my own space, up, in my own little apartment space where the kids could not come in and out because like just losing that couple of minutes every here and there, I couldn't focus. I had to like really create a home workspace to mirror as if I were actually leaving this, the home space while being home at the same time. And it makes a huge difference.
Huge difference. And that was actually big with COVID too, because a lot of people, they didn't have that physical boundary. So that's a great one, Jackie. Anyone else have ones that they've done that works? Turn off the email ad team. Love that. Turning off notifications is massive. And if you go on vacation, delete the apps from your phone. All right, awesome. Okay, so we have about 16 minutes left. I block off my calendar at certain times. I love that, AJ. And that's another thing. Yes, block off your calendar. Like even in the mornings and like the bookends of your workday, it allows you to like ease into your workday and ease out. That's a great one, AJ. Okay. So now I want to spend the last part of our call talking about the healing pillars. And this is really what these are, is they are there to allow you to either activate or further support your journey. Because as I said, you're going to, like, as you're creating these shifts and changes in your day, there's going to be mild external resistance, but the big one is the internal resistance, your own ego going up against you. So the 6 pillars that I have identified that I work with are connection to the body, voice activation, connection to nature, peace of mind, creative expression, and connection to others. So these are ones that you can tap into either regularly or just as needed throughout your entire week. Now, in this whole entire like diagram, you can see at the center of it is your core values. It's a value-led living. It is your heart-led living, alignment, flow, presence. And to support that vision of that dream state life, you have your sustainable structure. So you have your boundaries, your daily habits, your balance, the riverbank, really holding that vision to life. And then to further support and activate, you have the healing pillars. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about each of these healing pillars. So just to give some examples of ones that you can tap into. So you can tap into all of these. They all support, right? But just to kind of give a little refinement, if you are in the situation where you're needing more self-love, more self-worth, more confidence, right? Maybe you're going after a promotion and you're kind of talking yourself out of it, or you constantly, just don't feel your worth at work or just in life in general. One of there's 2 healing pillars that I always kind of guide clients to, and it's connection to the body and voice activation. So connection to the body is really, for me, it's the gateway to everything. And especially the gateway to presence. We live in a society and a culture and a world that is moving at the pace of our mind versus the pace of our body. It is go, go, go. It's action oriented. It's always thinking about the next thing. It's about outcomes and progress, all that, which is great. But we are human beings and we should be moving more at the pace of our body versus the pace of our mind. So it's really that connection to the body starts to help us ground and really tap into that presence. It's also about listening to the body versus dictating it. And our body is constantly communicating to us, and we are constantly dictating to it. And instead of seeing our body as a separate entity, it's more so building that harmonious communication and relationship with our body, which is also appreciating our body versus criticizing it. It's not skipping meals because you have to work. It's prioritizing your physical wellness and your emotional and mental wellness because it allows you to show up as a better version of yourself in all areas of your life. So there's a couple of different practices that you can do on a daily basis. I would say connection to the body is something that should be a consistent practice to really support a balanced lifestyle. But some of the things that you can work in, and it can just even be 5 minutes, movement. That can be yoga, walking, running, going to the gym. I've recently gotten into Qigong and I freaking love it. So if you are a Qigong person or if you're intrigued by it, ping me because I would love to talk about it. Breath work. So your breath is the most powerful tool that you have access to at every second of your life. And it absolutely, I mean, it regulates your entire nervous system. So I'm going to give you, we're going to do a little bit of a breath exercise that you can use in so many different ways of your life. But breath work is one of the most powerful modalities that I've ever come across, whether it's mild breath work to bring like you down to like just calming you, or it's like intense breath work to really help you like release some of that suppressed emotions and traumas, and then slowing down, like I said, moving at the pace of your body. So we're going to do just a little bit, like two things that I want you to go through here, just to kind of use as practices, right? To bring you back to the present moment. If you think about your body is every single millisecond of your life. It is reproducing, it is generating, it is processing. It is in the present moment so that you can exist. So that is why connecting to the body, it really helps you come into that present moment. So one of the ways that you can do that is is anyone familiar with 4-7-8 breath? Yeah, Allison? Okay. This is Lacey, amazing. So the 4-7-8 breath, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, this is one of the breath works that I recommend to everyone, because you can do it anywhere. You can do it before a presentation. You can do it in the grocery store. You can do it in your car. But what it does is you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 7 seconds, and then you exhale for 8 seconds. And that longer exhale, scientifically, what the longer exhale does is it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So when you are in fight or flight mode, when you are stressed and your cortisol is ripping through your body, you are activating the sympathetic nervous system. And in order to offset that, the longer exhales will activate the rest and digest hormones in your body, and it'll pump the brakes on the cortisol. So when I was in corporate, I would tend to do the 4-7-8 breath before I was about to get on a very important meeting. Like if I was going to be presenting to executives or clients, whatever it might be, I would do the 4-7-8 breath, and it would completely calm me. I've also seen people, and I've done this myself, if you have trouble sleeping, doing the 4-7-8 breath will help you fall asleep. So anyway, so we'll go through that, what that looks like. And then another thing to do is just kind of connecting to your body. So everyone just find a comfortable seat. Everyone's seated. You're comfortable, right? All right. So just close your eyes and then take one hand to your belly and one hand to your chest. And then just feel the hands connected to your body. And I want you to take notice on which hand is rising when you inhale. Is it your belly or is it your chest? And then just keep kind of bringing the focus to your breath. And if your hand that is on the chest is the one that's rising, bring more emphasis to the hand that's on the belly, because when your chest is rising as you breathe, that is where you're in that sympathetic nervous system. You are in more of that stress state. So you want to be breathing more from the belly. That will help reduce the anxiety. And then even just doing this where you just a couple of breaths with your hands on your body, it can bring you into that present moment. And then with your hands still where they are and your eyes closed, we're going to do a couple rounds of 4-7-8 breath, just so you have the familiarity of it. So go ahead and let out all the air. And then inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last one. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then just let the breathing come to a natural state. And then just notice if there's been any shifts. And then you can go ahead and flutter open your eyes. And this is something that you can do, continue to do those 4-7-8 breaths until you start to feel literally like your nervous system start to have some shifts. It can be 3 cycles, it could be 10 cycles or more. But that's just a tool that you can have and a practice that you can have. The next one, just as far as like self-worth, self-confidence, is voice activation. So a lot of times we go through our days and our lives where we are feeling not confident about what we have to say. And a lot of that has to come with, it's all about trusting and feeling confident in what you're saying about yourself and to others. So be mindful of how you speak about yourself. And one of the keys, I mean, this is just a life advice that I've picked up from masters and teachers, is key to happiness is avoiding the 3 C's. So avoid comparison, avoid talking with criticism, and avoid complaining. That's just one piece. But another thing, just a fun thing to do, sing freaking songs at the top of your lungs. Like, just belt it out, get comfortable with the sound of your own voice, feel how it feels to radiate it. It is, roll the windows up in the car, shut the doors, do whatever you need to do. But this is a really good way to kind of activate your voice and start getting yourself comfortable with the sound of your own voice. And that words are power, truth, and acceptance. Oh, thank you, Sarah. I'm so glad that worked. Another one, if you need inner calm and stable nervous system. So a lot of us need this if we are stressed out, if we have the cortisol ripping through our body. So I'm going to just fly through these. So I'm going to talk really fast. Connection to nature is massive. There are actual, like, doctors in Japan will literally prescribe walking in nature because of the scientific benefits that it has to increasing your immune system, to calming stress, and to just making you an overall state of happiness. So there are things called forest and tree bathing. My husband thinks I'm a hippy dippy when I talk about it, but it is literally a thing. But even they've done scientific studies where they've studied people looking at nature, listening to nature, and they've seen blood pressure and stress reduce. Even if you think about like meditation soundtracks, it's all nature because we are nature. So being in nature for even just 5 minutes. The other thing is like peace of mind. So lead with the heart versus the monkey mind. My meditation teacher years ago, when I still lived in Chicago, he was teaching us and he was saying, your mind is like a puppy. If you do not train and discipline your mind, it is going to wreak havoc in your life, just like a puppy will wreak havoc in your house. So it's all about like your mind can be manipulated, your mind can be shifted and changed, but your heart cannot. So that's why it's so important to lead with the heart, because then you're going to go through life not making decisions based off of fear. You're going to make decisions based off of what is most valuable and true to you. And some practices, daily meditative activity. It doesn't have to be like what we just did, where you just sit closed eyes. Daily meditative activity can be anything that quiets your mind. It could be knitting. It could be playing music. It could be gardening, and ensuring you have space in your days. And then the other, like, just category is if you need passion and excitement, like you are just feeling lackluster in life. I always have my clients start to incorporate creative expression in their days. And this could be, think about things that you like to do as kids. One client, he loved Legos. So I was like, go get a Lego set and start doing Lego. And so that's like a way for him to like tap into his creativity. It could be gardening, but the creative expression is so important because it does foster self-discovery and it connects you more to who you are at your core. And if you're needing purpose, if you're feeling like that's a need in your life, then the connection to others is a great healing pillar, because that really helps like elevate those high vibrational energies like love, compassion, and empathy. So those are the healing pillars. And Allison, you'll send this deck out, right? Okay, cool. And then if you have any questions, like, please reach out. I'm a human, so obviously, so reach out, because I love talking about this stuff. Also, Allison's going to send out the Wheel of Life. This is a document that I've created. There's lots of Wheel of Lives out there, but this is one that I created just specifically for Moonrock. But basically what you'll do is you'll go through, these are different sections of your life, and you'll rank your level of happiness and contentment from 0 to 10 and be honest with yourself. It's not a judgment. It's ways to see like, okay, I'm not really content in this area. What can I do to improve that? Or maybe I'm really happy here. What can I do to sustain it? So it allows you to like give yourself a reason and also actions. And then you have your core values that you layer down at the bottom. And then you can see where in your wheel are you in misalignment to your core values. So Allison's going to send that out. And then just a couple of recaps. So we talked about the core values. Black Sheep is the book I'm going to recommend. Highly recommend it. If you want to get a little bit more crisp on your core values, you have the Wheel of Life on identifying the vision. There's also on my website, there is a Better Balance and Boundaries, a 3-step guide that's free. So that's there if you want it. Use the healing pillars for internal healing, and then stay connected to me. So I've got my email. I'm on Instagram. I know I'm on LinkedIn naturally. That's where Allison and I met. But Instagram, I tend to like, they have the stories there, and you can just show more of your personality. And so I'm there too. So you guys can connect to me in any of those realms. But we've got 1 minute. I'll read through that.
This was so helpful. Honestly, I feel like it was just so informative, and just even breathing exercises, zoning in on things you want, just small changes. That's like such a big deal.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was amazing. I know we only have 1 minute for questions. First of all, this was a masterclass and wrapping up on time. So great job. Incredible. We will send out all of the materials. So I know we had to fly through at the end here, but you'll have time to review, and reflect on everything when we send out the recap. But does anyone have any questions or any final thoughts before we hop off?
I just want to say thank you, and thank you to Allison. Just so excited to see you get this business and this entire new side of your life and your career off to this interesting new start, and excited to catch up on it. And Jessica, just loved everything that you shared today. Really has given me a lot to think about. So it's good like starting foundation for kind of next phase thinking. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you for that. So yeah, we are at time. Again, I will send everything out. Please continue to follow along. So I definitely encourage you to follow Jessica. She has so many interesting insights daily. So definitely check her out. Continue to check out unBurnt. We'll have the next wave of webinars beyond January. I'm going to be posting very soon. So things around financial health, always important at the beginning of the year. I have a couple of other cool things coming down the pike for 2025. So continue to check it out. I know we're at time here, so wrapping up quickly, but thank you guys so much for joining. And yeah, just excited to stay connected.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right. Have a great day. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.